record.
Radio lads stay in Scotland. Still there?
No, he's in Dublin now.
Oh,
He's still teaching, yeah. Billy, you're going to decide to go for long way now, miss you. He had done his degree in law. And he worked for quite a yeah, maybe going out to the red now.
Jazzy's very good. I think she's Scottish. So she works in the film station. He's Scottish.
Whatever they're going to. Oh, just she.
No. The accent's completely different.
I know, yeah.
People think I've been to America and everyone thought I was English. And that's
I know.
Cheers. I'll go back and have my one pint.
Hello. Thanks, John. Okay, folks, we're going to ease gently now. We have a few more poems and then we're going to finish up. Alright? So, I'm calling Brian to start off the second half.
So this was written a few years ago. You remember the thought that Germany was going to take over Ireland and Mrs. Merkel would be at the head of it. But it also came out that the health and safety was gone a bit mad. So it's about Croagh Patrick. And this was a letter that was written to Mrs. Merkel to tell her to keep quiet. Dear Mrs. Merkel, I'm here to relate something that I heard of late about Croagh Patrick in County Mayo, what I am to do before I go. Generations of ancestors have climbed the hill, and thousands more will climb it still. You're making laws to stifle tradition. You're putting up fences and erecting partitions. I lined them out here 2 by 2, since all the rules were made by you. I'll quote verbatim the things you said, the rules and the laws that you have made. It's time Croagh Patrick was modernised to fall in line and Europe eyes. There are rocks and stones and dangerous steps. You could slip and fall and break your necks. Eventually we will pave the road. We'll lay the tarmac load by load. And the church on top will have to go. It's not in keeping with EU rules, you know. You must have a whistle and a high-vis vest. You can't walk in rain, hot sun or frost. Your insurance must cover you, foot to eye. All we'll take is the German VHI. You must walk slowly and never pass, or knock others on their ass. If you do, you'll surely rue the wrath of the Croagh Patrick police. The Croagh Patrick police will be there in force, dressed in their red and green, of course. Their word is final, with power to arrest, so comply with all, don't dare protest. Now prayer, of course, must be curtailed, and the word of God never proclaimed. The Hail Mary is out, Samsung is in, there'll be no confessions for serious sin. Only Gaelgors will be given a break if the mumble os Gaelga, or maybe some German that spake. The length of your stick must be 2 meters high. Your boots and your shoes must also comply. We'll have a checkpoint at Campbell's Gate, and all climbers please cooperate. There'll be a search of body and bag, no beer, no wine, not even a fag. Declare your worth and show your possessions before you're allowed to join the processions. Now Lobbapari that looks out to sea will have to be removed, its health and safety. You'll slide and fall on a windy day and up in bits in mid-Clew Bay. No planning permission was ever sought, nor the land by Patrick ever bought. Oh, how you climb it and from what side our German people will decide. Thank you. Maybe just I give one off the top of my head. It was I don't know what the name of it is, but it's just a story about a man I met when I was a kid, and I kind of added a bit to it. If I can think of it now. Oh, come on. There you go. I met him at the break of day on top of Kieran's Hill. He pointed out the spots below that still give me a thrill. He knew all places north and south, he knew both east and west. And if I was for moving on towards the sinking sun was best. His beard was long and dirty white, his coat saw many a shed. His speech saw signs of Socrates and other books he read. His oxer hid a bundle tied up with a lump of twine. I often wondered what he hid there, though the secret wasn't mine. He told me stories of Breach and Maeve and the heroes of '98, of Pearse and Barnes and other men whose freedom couldn't wait. He knew the poets verse by verse could recite in our native tongue, and told me always to remember Islawr and Chongalum. The blackthorn bush and the hawthorn tree were a wonder to his eyes. He saw his God in everything and he marvelled in surprise. He told me that his God was close and not confined by walls, to seek him where I place my foot or where the corncrake calls, to see him in the sunrise or along the Shannon's banks, in fish and flower and mountain, and always to give thanks. For many will see the things you see, though not behold the Maker, like those that ate their fill of bread, quick forget the baker. I offered him a place to rest, a spot to lay his head. He thanked me here so graciously, but said he'd push ahead. Well, he blessed me and he left me there on top of Kieran's Hill. His face he put again Wind's Cross, his back I see it still. Though the years have gone and I've grown old, those words I still recall. His showing me a God, a God, a God that's found in all. Thank you.
Thank you, Brian, very much. Now, folks, I'm going to call on Lynn again to talk to us. And you know, mark in your diaries now, the launch of our book is Friday night. That's in the National School from 6:30 to 7:30. From 6, to 7. Next Friday, the 11th. Well, next Friday, this day week, in the National School, 6 to 7, for the launch of the brilliant new book. Well done, Lynn. Thank you. And now Lynn is going to entertain us next. Maybe just make sure people can see the book. All right? Okay.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thanks, George. Nikki said it's horrid early. Well, it is a children's book, Nikki. So it's from 6.
All right.
From 6 o'clock till 7:30 next Friday evening. We'll be up in the National School, and you're all more than welcome to be there.
Thank you.
And afterwards, we'll be at the after party here in Corrigan's next Friday night. So if you can't make the National School, love to see you here next Friday night. Roots and Wings. Take me please to soar over the Shannon shore, across the Callow wide, where by the tides my roots lie. This song was written for my granny Coughlin, and she was born and reared in the Callows in Clonford. Grandad, she had 3 children at that stage. They were living at home with her father and her granny Lucas. Granny Lucas was well on in years at the time. And she had Donal, Michal and Daddy. And the floods and all of that it was all getting far too much for the cottagers down in Clonford at the time. And Grandad Coughlin just arrived home one day and announced, I've got a house for us in Aircourt. And she had no say in it, and she often told the story to myself and Hilda and Elaine that she was absolutely devastated. And she so missed her father and Granny Lucas, and she had to make a home for them on the bare streets of Aircourt at the time. So this is called Roots and Wings. Oh, take me please to soar over the Shannon shore, across the Callows wide, where by the tides my roots lie. And how she cried that day he forced her from the lushness, on Main Street fair but grey, she built with him a new life. No flood here lapping to the door, and like the pike who floundered, she too swam helplessly, yearning for her father. Her children gathered round her, a country girl no more. She constant fought her new life, tormented for the old way. But had to be a good wife, for men had all the say, and she learned to be the boss upon the streets of Aircourt so grey. Last year on the Beats Banagher Festival, they had a tinsmith down at the back of the Grand House. And myself and Caroline McCormack, we wandered in, and the tinsmith insisted that we sat down at this piece of rough timber, and we had to hone out. We were amazed with what we actually came up with at the end of it, but he was a master smith. And
It's like George.
the very same as George. And a couple of weeks after, I was on Facebook and I was following the Woodford Furnace Festival. And here be God was our tinsmith above on the Slieveotty Mountains. And I shared it with Caroline and I said, look at your man. But we kept our little, we made a piece of jewellery out of tin, and we were amazed with what you could do when somebody is well able to instruct you in the right way of doing it with our little hammers. So this is called the Master Smiths. We wandered in and found him, our tinsmith with the feathered hat, spectacled, sliding off his crooked nose. Imagined how the beats of smoky sweat rivered down his wrinkled skin, and every weathered line portrayed the flaming beast he tamed each day. No beast that day to ply his trade, a wooden block his lowly stage, a hammer and some tin we worked, inspired to greatness such as his. Grown-ups and child watched beguiled, and we tapped our wares in rhythmic beat on his instruction. I saw him later in the Otties, working o'er as once before. These few came here to reenact an ancient trade, and how the beast cast shadows on the hollows of his face there. His roughened hands charred and split, intent upon his face where, after time, a living, molten iron bloom appeared, and worked majestically by those masters who from all around the world came to claim the mountain for their own. And our own smithy, quietly hunched and hewed it out, no need for words, diligent and duty-bound to help present the past, on this lonely land along the mountainside. As long ago, when men were men and hands were used to work, for ours is now a broken land, where trades are shunned for shirts. Tell me why this ancient art became so shunned and shied, and regale the masters that linger here, if only for a while. And I suppose one of the very first poems that I wrote, and I love swallows, and I think everybody'd love to be a swallow, fly away in the dark and cold winter and come back to the green and lush in the following summer. And this one is called, it's from a fairy wonderland of rhymes, it's called Migrant Fairies. And I'll just show you the little illustration that she did. The fairy is clinging to the bottom of the swallow as she flies south away from the north winds and snow. Migrant Fairies. Bye bye little fairy as you head south, away from the north wind and snow. Stowing away neath a wee swallow's breast, preening him gaily you go. You're off now to journey away on the wind, you merrily leave on the wing. Away from the snow and the biting north wind, adieu, pray return in the spring. Thank you.
Thank you, Lynn. And I saw an unfortunate swallow yesterday. I wonder, was he left behind? Anyway, thank you. Now, I want to call on Dave to wrap things up tonight. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, this is called Rathkeil Rosie. Rathkeil is in Limerick, where there's lovely houses, lovely people, lovely caravans out in front of them. Long years ago, when I was a boy, I found it tough making friends due to being quite shy. And as for girlfriends and dates, well, none seemed my type. This was long before email, the Snapchat and Skype. I couldn't talk to my parents, I felt all alone, till I discovered some adverts in the back of the Ireland's Own. Long legs and eyelashes, likes jigging and reeling, with a bosom real curvy, which to me was appealing. So I wrote her a letter expressing desires to spend cold winter's nights cuddled up by the fire, and to join her in dancing in her jigs and her reels, and to admire her long legs in short skirts and high heels. After 2 weeks watching the Post and Telegraph's van, the day finally came, a reply from Madame. I climbed under the bed and the envelope I ripped, and on reading the contents my stomach had flipped. She too fancied me from what I could see. I thought of me acne and me dodgy left knee. Then I glanced at the paper, with a kiss it was sealed, and the postmark was Limerick and the town of Rathkeil. What would I tell mother, or even me dad? If they thought I might leave them, they'd be roaring mad. But Limerick was calling, and my long-legged Rosie, wrapped up in a blanket by a fireside so cosy. After several hours thinking, I drew up a plan. I told Mammy and Daddy that Rosie was a man. He was a fella I met at a match in Roscrea, and I was going down to see him, and for the night I would stay. My mother was worried about me travelling alone. She'd have no means of contact. There was no mobile phones. There was a tear in her eye as she waved from the door. I suppose it was normal. I was just gone 34. Well, my father, he drove me to the bus stop in Burr. I had nothing to say to him. All I thought of was her. Then I hopped on the bus with thoughts fueled by Cupid. I was smiling so much, I must have looked awful stupid. In Portumna and Nina, we stopped for a rest. What a joy to be travelling on the Rathkeil Express. We had a pit stop in Limerick and a piddle in Adair. I couldn't wait to meet Rosie with her long flowing hair. Well, the bus finally got there. We arrived in Rathkeil. I'd last meet my Rosie. It felt so surreal. Her abode, she told me, was a few yards from there, number 6 on the main street, across from the square. Well, in me heart it was thumping as I started to knock. Then out came young Rosie in a bright coloured frock. Now her legs, they were thicker than she wrote in her ad, but in the dimly lit light she didn't look too bad. With a warm welcome smile she beckoned me in. Her breasts were so large they were touching her chin. Her flaming red hair had covered her eyes, kind of like a robber or a bandit in heavy disguise. After some pleasant chat we sat down by the fire. As she crossed her long legs, her dress went up higher. Then she leaned over to me as if to embrace. My stomach was heaving, I was all over the place. We were close on the sofa. As the dress went up further, I was thinking about home and me father and mother. Then right there and then, I was about to indulge, when between her two legs, I saw a great bulge. I made such a leap that I knocked Rosie down, and 2 heads of cabbage fell out of her gown. Her womanly features, my eyes they did catch, were sadly homegrown in a vegetable patch. Well, I made for the door like a bat out of hell. That encounter with Rosie left me feeling unwell. I thought of the lies I told to me mother, and I promised myself I'd not tell another. Many years have passed by, and I'm doing grand. I've a wife and a family in a free piece of land. 6 sons and a daughter, doing the best that I can, all living together in a large caravan. You see, the day I fled Rosie in the town of Rathkeel, I met darling Winnie as I crossed the wild fields. She was boiling a kettle upon a warm fire, and her startling beauty I stopped to admire. 'Twas just 3 months later in the church we did wed, and I took Winnie home to her marital bed. Now I love all things about Winnie. She's shapely and tall, and the best thing about her, she was born with them all. Only 45 more verses, alright. This is one that I wrote about, and it's apt tonight because Brian Cowan is still recovering from his sickness. So this is one that I wrote after Brian got the Taoiseach. It's called Brian Cowan and the Adventures of Gráinne McGrew. They were singing the Rover, they were singing it loud, the people of Offaly, so faithful and proud. On the steps of the Oris, the large crowd did wait. 'Twas the 7th of May in 2008. For the bugle from Clara had just come of age to be the leader of Ireland on the highest stage. Some said he was good at only singing Camalias, but what an honour to bestow on the people of Offaly. Now amongst the vast crowd that followed him round was one special lady from a place called Corrigan. She had a soft spot for his guig so curly. His eyes were Doc Gurram and his arms larger and burly. You see, Gráinne McGrew was a Cowan fan for years. When they called him Biffo, they'd have her in tears. For her, forget Enda, for Brian was the best. She even had Lisbon tattooed on her breast. Way back in November, he was on a night out. He was in Tullamore, a gold few pints of stout. We got dinner at Conu inside Brewery Tap, when along came our Gráinne and he sat on his lap. Oh Brian, my God, how I missed you. Come back to me to Corrigan, or me heart will be brishta. I've landed you diaper, and a fine turfil shed, and it's been quite a while since I've had a fire in me bed. She saw him on Sky and longed for him again. He was meeting Gordon Brown beyond to number 10. So she washed her face and hair, put her gona fine, and she took a flight to London after booking it online. "Ta fault you wrote to Colleen," said Brian to Gráinne McGrew. "This here is the Prime Minister, whose face I'm sure you knew." "Oh, I know his ugly mug," she said, and she began a gyra. "But it's you a graw I'd love to paw and drag you up me styra." She appeared again at Stormont as he met with President Bush. Past all the high security, our Gráinne she did rush. "Gumaleshgel, Mr. President, can you forget about Iraq? I dearly want the Taoiseach in Corrigan on the flat of his back." Now, if you were Mary Cowan, you'd be going off your head. worrying about our Grania trying to take poor Brian to bed. But rest easy there, dear Mary, I've news to you to tell for you. For all may not it as it seems with this floozy Miss McGrew. No more she'll bother Brian, no more she's free to roam. She's out in the 5 roads in Banagher in Lyons nursing home. At 99 she's looking fine, though in her head there rings a bell, and her eyes light up when she hears the tune of the town I love so well. I have one more left to go, so I hope you don't mind. This is called the Banagher Derby, and it's all about our host tonight, Mr. Sean Corrigan. And might I just say it's a lovely night to have, and it's quiet but it's nice. But I really like to remember Peg tonight because she's been here every year, and you know she hasn't gone without our thoughts. Well, it all began last Tuesday week, or maybe the week before. The loudest sound I ever heard, someone rattling at me door. So down the stairs I stumbled to investigate the din. A voice yelled out, "It's Sean Corrigan, would you gladly let me in?" Unlocking the door before my eyes stood Sean, who was visibly shaken. I inquired if he needed a defibrillator or had he had much alcohol taken. Well, he settled down enough to say that he received an urgent call from a friend of a friend who he knew very well, who was working in the Dove. The Department of Sport and Tourism, a competition they would run, and the town that emerged victorious, €1 million will be won. For the most unusual rural event, with passion, sport and culture, the dollar signs were in Sean's eyes. He was like the great white vulture. We considered darts and snooker, jogging, rowing and the bikes, but none seemed to be the answer. We needed something to excite. Something fast and something furious, something daring and with pace. My mind was drawn to horses. Could we ever hold a race? Sure, Jazzer has a horse or two, Pat Clary and Joe White, Damien Keenan and McLaughlin, sure we'd surely be all right. Jack Geigen has some right ones. He wouldn't leave us forlorn. So there and then that moment, the Banagher Derby it was born. After months of preparation, everything was in place, and 1,000 loud spectators gathered round to watch the race. 100 equine athletes, 100 riders all jocked up, lined up below at Banagher Bridge to compete for the Derby Cup. At Martello Tower, the white flag raised, goggles down and girths were tightened, as Banagher's finest riders, bold and brave, not one was frightened. As they galloped fast across the bridge, they jostled for position. The race was rough, you must be tough, 'twas a right war of attrition. Paddy Kinsella was the first away, in Drumcullen's sash was clad, as he headed towards the Vinehouse on the gallant live-wire lad. Nicola Daly close behind him on the speedy Charlotte's Ghost. Paddy scales low in the saddle on the wild Atlantic coast. In behind that tree and travelling well, all primed here to attack, was the darter Ashley Hare on the deadly Bullseye Jack. Austin Kerwin was riding Tractor Tom, P. Flannery rode arm in a sling, and steadily creeping closer, Chinny riding Bullring King. Brother Brian was riding the hairy monk, Ger Huck the boxing bear, Jim Kane was riding Forever Young, and he behind the other pair. Father Pierre was caught for early speed on the sluggish Mortal Sins, and the wiry Kieran Flannery getting close on Grandad's twins. Sean Kavanagh from the rear emerged on the impressive German dog, followed through past Corrigan's corner by Pat Horn on Rathlin Bog. Adrian Clancy was on Drumcullen Blues, Man Kelly on Easter Lily, Kieran Hone came next on Banagher Mush, Catherine Kane was on My Boy Billy. Simon Lyons came out on Simmy's son, the horse struggling him to carry. Breathing down his neck was Jared Madden on the gutsy Laptop Larry. Brendan Smith was stroking him along on a lovely Waters Pass. Frankie Fitz was having trouble on determined Radio Lass. As they strode past Gallagher's corner, they were beginning to feel the pain. George Smith was still going nicely on the fearless Pint of Plain. Harry McNally too was cruising on the mare Low Profile Lover, not forgetting Ollie Duggan on the flashy Undercover. Bert Farrell took it up riding Mayo for Sam. Paul Flynn behind him on my lovely green van. The finish was close, St. Paul's was in view. Beezer Flannery made a burst, riding Dolly Baboo. Mark Woods made his move on Shannon High Flyer. Bronte Bell and James Scully, his eyes on the spire. Pat Barton on buttons, thought he'd had the job done, but so did Gerard Woods on the brave Run Forest run. With just yards to the wire and victory in sight, a hearse just appeared in the dazzling light. He put down his head and the others did pass. 'Twas the bold Charlie Daly and his old faithful ass. Well, the cameras were flashing, there was pictures galore. RTE was on board, TV3 and loads more. And your man from the Dáil, who had first spoke to Sean, was presenting the cheque right there on the lawn. Well, the whole town was euphoric. The €1,000,000 had been won. There was porter drank in Banagher till the rising of the sun. And its rays came up that morning in golden yellow streams. I shook my head, got out of bed, and I revelled in me dreams.
Thank you, Dave. What a note to finish on. Well done. Thank you so much. Sean, do you want to...
I don't think we'll go against tradition and we'll go with Brian to finish there, will we? Just before we do finish, just to wish Lynn the very best of luck. Lynn has some books for her there this evening, and although I've heard them, the illustrations are absolutely fantastic in them. They're really, my own kids are in pure awe of them. Just last year we got out to publication of the Pallet for the 25 years. We made a donation to Banagher, Vincent de Paul last Christmas, and there's a few pound in the kitty to give them again this Christmas. So thanks very much. There's still a few copies of it left there. They're getting very slow, scarce, so they're about €45 each. 50 signed. Brian, how are you fixed? We'll let the judges go out there now.
Hugh, hot one. What? How do you leave? Me hot more. Yeah, cheese. I haven't done it in a while. Is it in the book? One night in a bar was having a jar and me no, that's not it. It's me hot more, isn't it? Oh, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. One night in the bar.
Oh, it's me hot more you want. Oh, she's hung up for a second. Yeah. I heard this story O'Maher. That one, is it? Now, I heard the story O'Maher. If you haven't Irish, it doesn't matter. This rural Ireland's tragic tale narrates a sad, seductive scale concerning lust without discretion, agus cúpla beag an rudí eile freisin. Now, Uruan Fado, a little town near Carrow, lived a búchal macht named Micheál Mór, an only son of 34. When work was done at the end of day, he'd sit down with the old cup on tea. Never felt the urge to stroll or to spend the evening time a goal. His intellectual needs was drawn from books like Peg agus Isagon. So it was blean in, blean out, or Micheál never moved about, but he dreamt of Collins most men do, but he never sinned on digging too. Meanwhile, up in Offaly, this Colleen Jazz had a bright idea. When the latest Sarah time came by, she'd like to try Osbeog Cumin Marcarro, no foreign food not far to go. And there to mingle with a native clan, or she's maybe find herself a man. This Colleen Jazz with eyes so blue was known in town as Silly Sue. To her the local boys came crawling, and all agreed she was go hauling. She left her men in state of shock, oh Micheál be cool amok. This Colin Jas knows his trick and she's headed west. Beware of Vic. Now the light shone bright in the parish hall at the local Fáinne wearer's ball. Be me how long August be Susie own, dressed in most revealing gown. Then our brave Coo Hullen of the west, his hurling medals across his chest, exclaimed when the city Sue come in, oh jeez and Adam J, will you fake her shin? Though trimling still he took a chance, kid me the fortune miss, would you like to dance? So Galoo on the floor the strut, cown to cown, August foot to foot. Then she whispered into Mihaal's ear, Aislam now love will disappear. We'll use my room, the doors unlocked. You'll spend the night, Shomra hooked. Oh, Cree Hall's head was in a spin, near rouse you think and toss mer shin. He couldn't talk but only stutter. A straight walya into ruher. Sad verse. Now a straight walya August into bed, with decades of the rosary said. Now our Micheál Mór, he sleeps alone, in his lava biog o chon o chon. And he often his dreams are Shomra hooked, but what might have been, poor Micheál booked.